News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, the lift in futures comes on signs that after 41 days, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history may be close to coming to an end.
Looks like we're getting very close on the shutdown. We'll never agree to give any substantial money or any money to really prisoners, illegals that come into our country. And I think the Democrats understand that.
That was President Trump speaking before the Senate voted 60-40 to advance a bill that would fund most of the government through January 30th while providing full-year funds for agriculture, Veterans Affairs, and Congress. 8 moderate Democrats broke with their party leaders to break the filibuster, including independent Angus King, who caucuses with Democrats. He says Republicans weren't willing to budge on Democrats' demand for a deal on expiring health insurance subsidies.
The question before us is how's the best way to get there? And it was our judgment after 6 weeks, going on 7 weeks of this shutdown, that path wasn't working.
It was independent Senator Angus King of Maine, and we get more from Bloomberg's Jill Desis.
The moderate Democrats that the Republicans were able to sway over to achieve this 60-40 vote say that they were promised basically another vote on some Obamacare tax provisions that was ultimately at the heart of the shutdown. So that could come sometime in December if that's, what was ultimately achieved here.
Bloomberg's Jill Desis reports it's still not clear how quickly the shutdown will end even after this procedural step. The Senate needs consent from all its members to end the shutdown quickly. Any one senator could force days of delays.
Well, Nathan, while the shutdown continues, millions of Americans are still facing flight delays and uncertainty over government food aid. And now a federal appeals court has ruled against the Trump administration in its bid to only partially fund SNAP benefits, while it challenges a lower court's order to fund the program at 100%. The Department of Agriculture and other agencies have argued fully funding November SNAP benefits during the shutdown would limit funds for other programs. But the appeals court ruled that doesn't outweigh the harm of leaving tens of millions of Americans without food as winter approaches.
And Karen, the government shutdown has added to headaches at the airport. Airlines canceled more than 2,700 flights yesterday, mostly because of the shutdown and the Federal Aviation Administration's order to reduce air traffic. Another 1,400 have been canceled today. Compounding the problem, frigid weather, delaying thousands more flights. Bloomberg meteorologist Craig Allen is tracking the latest weather pattern.
The core of this unseasonably cold outbreak is plunging south and east this morning, and it's going to bring sub-freezing temperatures to about 36 states from the plains to the east coast. And rather than rise, the mercury may tumble all day as much as 20 to 30 degrees from highs on Sunday. So tonight's lows will be in the 20s and 30s. It'll be felt from the Canadian border all the way down to the Gulf Coast, with numerous record lows expected in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, even Florida. And lake effect snow will also be a big problem, downwind of all the Great Lakes, but most notably running down the entire length of Lake Michigan. It's going to result in near treacherous to near impossible travel conditions, especially in Chicago and its suburbs.
Bloomberg meteorologist Craig Allen reporting Chicago's O'Hare International Airport is a major hub for United and American Airlines.
Nathan, President Trump suggested tariff revenue could be used to fund payments of at least $2,000 to most Americans. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said that the government would soon begin paying down the country's debt. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says Trump's suggestion could come through the tax cuts passed in the economic policy bill earlier this year.
It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
More signs of tensions between the U.S. and China continue to ease, Nathan. China has added more than a dozen fentanyl precursors to a list of controlled exports to the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. The move represents a step in fulfilling China's pledge to combat the flow of synthetic opioid ingredients to the U.S. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has suspended a probe into China's shipbuilding industry for 1 year.
All right, Karen, let's turn to markets now. Futures are higher on optimism. The government shutdown could be ending soon. S&P futures are up 0.9%. NASDAQ futures are up 1.4%. Valerie Titel is tracking the markets for Bloomberg.
Well, look, I think for many weeks we thought there was really limited progress on the shutdown. We finally get a breakthrough, and we're seeing a very positive reaction from the equity market. Now, this all started on Friday. There was a steep reversal in the U.S. equity market into the close. And with futures following through this morning, we've now essentially erased half of the drawdown in the S&P 500. Last week was a really bad week for the equity market. The NASDAQ had its worst week since early April. The S&P 500 had a 5% drawdown from all-time highs at the end of October.
Bloomberg's Valerie Teitel says the S&P 500 had risen for 3 straight weeks before last week's losses.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.